welcome to another edition of Driving with Miranda on the Car Guide. This week I am in the super cool Ford Mustang Mach-E. This is actually the 4xe version, which means I have all-wheel drive and I have the extended range battery. So let me get some numbers out of the way quick before I forget them. So with the battery that I have, because it is the extended range, that means I have an estimated 425 kilometer range available on this vehicle. I didn't get it up to that exactly. However, I did manage to go over 400 kilometers with about 94% charge, which is great. In terms of power, what this little puppy has, or I should say pony, it has 346 horsepower and 428 pound-foot of torque. Now, of course, that is battery power as well, so it is quick off the line. It's linear. There is no hesitation. There's no lag. It is on or off. I also have three really cool drive modes here in the Ford Mustang Mach-E. So I have Engage, I have Whisper, and I have Unbridled mode. Rather interesting names. At least, you know, there's no chaotic mode or ludicrous, you know, but the Unbridled is supposed to be like that. Anyways, all that to say, those three drive modes don't change my range at all. So even if I have it in Unbridled mode, which obviously I do, I get a faster throttle response, and then I also get a much harder regen braking. So I like to drive with the one pedal driving, and you can change that. So not everybody likes that with an EV, which basically means I rarely, if ever, touch the brake. So in order to come to a complete stop, all I have to do is release my foot from the throttle and the car will begin to slow down, and it can slow down quite dramatically if I take my foot off suddenly, and it really clamps down with those regenerative brakes, which is great, obviously, for suburban driving when you're coming up to a stop sign, but even actually works quite well in traffic. So honestly, I rarely have to touch the brake pedal, which is also why EV cars, their brakes are usually last a little bit longer. However, they do need to be checked more often because of the regen. So I have the one pedal drive in this, and in Unbridled mode, like I said, everything is kind of bigger, better, stronger. So the throttle along with the regen braking is quite intense. If I had it in Whisper mode, which I drove that for a little while, everything's a bit more subdued and gentle, and, you know, gentle leaving and slower regen, so it's not as harsh, which is a good way to get used to the one pedal driving. Actually, I would recommend it if you've never driven like that before. And then the Engage mode is just pretty normal all around, and if you take it off that one pedal driving, then it reacts just like a gas powered car. You can take your foot off the throttle, you will come to a stop eventually, but you will have to hit the brakes in order to come to a complete stop. I just stopped there. I did not touch the brake. That was the car bringing itself to a stop. And by the way, your brake lights do illuminate once you take your foot off the throttle, and it has that aggressive regen braking, so you don't have to worry about the car behind you not knowing what you are doing. It's all good there. Of course, I can turn on the propulsion sound, so if I'd like to have some sound coming out of the car, you can hear it from the outside and the inside. It also beeps when it backs up to let people around you know what's happening, since it is a silent car. There is a frunk because the batteries are mostly underneath and in the, well, they're all underneath the car actually. So, and there's no spare in the back. You have an inflation kit, so you have as much trunk space as possible. Well over 1,000 liters with the back seats down, because this is considered a crossover. So let's talk about the fact that this is a Mustang crossover. I gotta say, I was a little bit weirded out when I heard that they were using the Mustang name for this vehicle, for the shape that it was, and it wasn't just going to be a Mustang that had a battery instead of an engine. It was going to be a completely new design and a new look and a crossover. And I didn't quite understand the reasoning behind it. I think I do now. You know, the Mustang has a huge legacy and a great heritage, and it's a well-known name. And people are very attached to it. And this is a new type of Mustang. Just like there's a fastback, there's now a crossover EV. And it's allowed Ford to kind of streamline their lineup. They've got Mustang, they've got Bronco, and they've got F-150 now. And that's what they planned to do years ago, you know, cut everything and focus on their pickups and the Mustang brand. So they've done that. And while I never really call it a Mustang, I've been calling it the Ford Mach-E all week. You kind of drop that Mustang name. You, of course, have the Mustang logo, front, back, and on the steering wheel, so it's kind of hard to forget that you're driving a Mustang. And I don't think it's hurt the Mustang name that much. If you are a true Mustang enthusiast, then you likely won't be driving the Mach-E and or buying it, but you know, you can appreciate the fact that they're expanding on that namesake. Now, in terms of the interior on this thing, I quite like it. It is very comfortable, very roomy. I love the blue stitching. That's one of the things with all EVs. They always have like a really nice bright, either a blue or a green or something, you know, very environmental and airy, which is nice. So I quite like that. I have the Bang & Olufsen system. I'm in the premium edition of the Mach-E, so I've got all the bells and whistles. Pretty sure that's sitting at around the $70,000 mark for what I have here, starting mid-50s, so not a cheap car. However, it does qualify. So this model starts at $52,900, I believe, which means you do qualify for the government rebates for it, which is great, because with a car at this price, you kind of want to get as much off as you can. So in terms of the interior, yeah, really good amount of storage space, huge amount of space in the middle here, because obviously there's no drive column, like you don't need, there's no gears, so it's a one drive, like a one gear drive thing, all the electric. So you have all that space, just like Tesla, and they cleared out the middle, so there's no clear middle here, but I do have layers of shelving, and I've got a really nice armrest, and then this huge screen in the middle is great. There seems to be a little bit of wasted space. They could probably design it a bit better to display better things, but again, I think if I got used to it and I lived with it for longer than a week, I would have it really nicely set up, and it would be exactly what I wanted to see every day. Apple CarPlay, super easy to hook up, either via Bluetooth or you can hook up with your USB cable. Again, and the screen in front as well, really clean, precise. There is nothing extra on the gauge cluster screen behind the steering wheel. It simply displays your range, your placement on the road, so you can gauge how far ahead the car in front of you is. It also has semi-autonomous driving, so you can put yourself kind of in a bubble if you're in cruise control. It'll help you stay in the lanes, and of course, it won't let you encroach too much on the car in front of you, and will keep you kind of connected to that car as well with the laser guidedness. And then of course I have my speed here, which they've nicely said my ground speed, just in case I feel like flying in my Mach-E. So and then I've got the shifter knob down here, which, you know what, I'm getting used to them. I'm gonna stop complaining about it. It's a trend, it's fine. And it's nowhere near the volume knob, so I don't have to worry about turning the drive knob and when I'm trying to turn up the music. Good amount of trunk space. Like I said, you've got lots of liters back there, even with the back seat up. And then of course you have the front, which this one has little inserts to like little separators, which I think defeats the purpose of the front, because I can't fit anything in there the way it is. Without the dividers, it's a nice decent size, and you could fit some things in there, some groceries. But the way it is now, it's not very practical, and I'm not sure why they put the dividers in. In terms of how this feels on the road, its drivability, it's very comfortable, handles very well. Of course, this is the all-wheel drive version. It is not winter yet, so I don't know what it will feel like. It powers both, so it has the dual motors, so the power is going to both front and rear, so it's balanced. Feels a bit heavy. From driving the e-Golf to driving the Mach-E, the first thing I noticed was how heavy the Mach felt compared to the e-Golf. Just really weighted, and you know, that's partly the all-wheel drive, partly the fact that it's much larger than the e-Golf, and just everything about this is, you know, bigger battery, all that stuff. But after a few days, and after discovering the unbridled mode, I was able to, you know, just kind of get used to driving the vehicle, an EV this size, and I kind of forgot that it felt heavy and just felt normal. A little bit rough on the suspension, tends to pick up on every single crack and crook and all the things, but not terrible. Again, I would be curious to see how it drives in the winter, but I feel that, you know, with the even weight distribution, because the way the battery is underneath and the fact that you've got power going to both the front and the back, that it would be well sorted in wintry conditions. Now, speaking of winter, my first initial thought, we're gonna talk about the exterior now. I quite like the exterior look of this car. It's got that generic shape that all crossovers seem to have right now, that bit of almond. It's got a really nice rake in the back, nice smooth lines. And of course, that's a super cool no door handles feature. So instead, it has little buttons that you push and then the door will pop out and then you can open it. So my first thought was, okay, what happens if we have an ice storm and that little button that I have to depress, I can't. How do I get my door open? Like the back door has nothing. At least the front door has a little handle that you can kind of, I guess, if it didn't pop out all the way, you could kind of break the seal of ice and then pull the door. But the rear, you're done. Like you're not getting in the back in the winter if it seals. But apparently, and upon speaking to a Ford Mach-E owner who actually picked his vehicle up in February, if you precondition your Mach while it's plugged in, so precondition meaning you set a leave time, the car will turn itself on while it's plugged in, we'll set the ambient interior temperature, we'll heat everything up, we'll defrost the windshield, defrost the back, and we'll defrost the little button so that you can actually get into your car. So they were thinking. Even though this car clearly comes from California, they were thinking about us North American Great White North people who suffer from terrible winters and made sure that we could get into our vehicles. So that really is my only concern with the exterior on this thing. Otherwise, I love this grabber blue. You know, it gets so much attention on the road. It's a beautiful color. I wouldn't get sick of it. You know, with these bright colors, sometimes you think, okay, in like 2 or 3 months, I'm gonna get sick of looking at my blue car. No, I wouldn't get sick of looking at this, especially with the blue stitching on the inside. It just really complements and matches well. And then, you know, I'm used to the no grill in front, obviously for the aerodynamics, to make sure that there's no air going where it doesn't need to go to stop the car from getting that maximum range. And again, really nice fluid lines. And you've got those standard tri-line lights, the Mustang lights in the back, a little bit different, obviously, but harking back to that Mustang look, because really nothing else about this vehicle looks like the Mustang, let's be honest, besides the symbol. And then I've got this beautiful panoramic roof up here, which is really nice and airy. I can't open it, but it lets in a lot of light, which is nice. So all in all, you know what? This is a great EV. It's got a decent amount of range. Yeah, it's on the pricier side, but you know what? If you're going to use it as your only car, it makes a lot of sense. And if you have access to a level 3 charger, you know, and you need to top it up, then you can definitely survive with this vehicle, given the amount of range that it has with the extended range battery. Even without the extended range battery, I believe you're sitting in the 300 kilometer range, or just under 300 kilometer range, which is quite good as well. You know, you think of an average tank of gas is between 300 and 400 kilometers. So as long as you're in that range, you should be able to survive like you would in a normal car. The only difference is that if you have to stop to top up your battery, it's not like stopping for gas where you're there for 5 minutes. You're going to be there for a little bit longer, but that's why when you own an EV, you plan your life a little bit differently and you plan your journeys a little bit differently. So yeah. All right, guys, well, that's been it for me in the Ford Mach-E. I had a great week with this vehicle. I'm usually not partial to EVs, but I gotta say, I kind of like this one. Definite pros are the fact that it has quite a decent range. You will not have range anxiety in this thing. And the interior space as well as comfort, it's great in here. In terms of cons or things that I wouldn't recommend on this, of course, the price is a little bit high, but you get those government rebates with this. And then, of course, the buttons on the outside. I'm still not totally convinced that they'd work in the winter. That's just me. Call me a cynic. As always, if you guys have any questions or concerns, you can always hit me up at Miss Miranda L on Twitter or Instagram, Miranda Lifestone on Facebook.com, or you can drop a comment below. Hope to see you guys back for the next episode. Take care.